Did you want to do like the bring in thing and then, or just do
Yeah.
it like this?
Well, we can just start now.
Okay. Should I put, I'll put Aaron in the middle.
Yes, an Erin sandwich.
Yes. Cool.
Thank you so much for joining us, Erin. It's amazing to have you. Congratulations on your win against Rose Namajunas. How are you feeling?
Thank you. I feel really good. Yeah, that was a really big win for me. I was happy to get back like in the win column, especially against someone like Rose. So I was super happy about it.
Nice. Have you talked to anybody? I know that you called out Alexa Grasso after your fight. Have they talked to you at all about when you'll be next?
No, I haven't heard anything about when I'll be fighting next. I know Alexa just posted about like hurting her, like breaking her leg or something like that. So that's definitely a little bit of a bummer, but yeah, I haven't really heard anything yet.
Is there anybody else that you'd like to fight since Grasso might potentially be out for a while?
I don't really know. I haven't really thought about it that much because obviously you're always trying to like work up the ladder. So I would have ideally liked to fight her. Yeah, I'm not really sure. I guess we'll see how it kind of shakes out.
We were going through all your old fights and we realized that you fought Tracy Cortez before you got into the UFC.
Yeah.
Would there ever be an interest in fighting her again?
Yeah, I definitely would fight her again. I think it just hasn't happened, I guess, with how the rankings are. I think after I fought like Andrade like a year or two ago, I kind of got pushed up to like the top of the rankings like right away. So
Yeah.
it just hasn't really worked out that way. But yeah, I mean, if she's ever, I guess somebody that's kind of like in my way again, then I'd definitely take that fight.
Get out of here. I love that. I
Yeah.
feel like you're someone who you don't want to be in the way of. Like the way that you go for takedowns, you really just bulldoze people over. And I'm wondering, like, how, I guess, when did you start wanting to transition into doing MMA? Because I saw, like, when you were a kid, you started with jujitsu, then you started getting into, like, kickboxing and all these other things. But when did you start putting everything together and deciding, I want to beat girls up?
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean I started training when I was super young. I was only like 7. Because my little brother was actually training at the time and I went to go watch him and then I started training. So at first it was just like fun. I liked my parents put me into competing right away. And I kind of naturally, I guess, gravitated more towards jiu-jitsu. I feel like I did really well in that and there was more, I guess, opportunities at the time for that. And then you can't do MMA till you're older, till you're like 18. So I did a lot of jiu-jitsu growing up. But then when I saw like Ronda Rousey and Misha Tate and them fighting, and then when I was like 12, 13, I remember
Ah,
like, yeah.
oh my God, you're so young.
Yeah.
Oh my
I just,
So old.
God, I'm
I'm
old.
like,
yeah.
I'm like, what songs were out back then? Like that really
Oh
like,
yeah, I don't know. It's probably like Kesha and stuff like that.
oh my gosh.
Yeah, I remember watching them. And my dad has always been a big MMA fan, so he was always watching it. So then when he watched Strikeforce, watched them fight, and then when the UFC had women fighting, we would watch Invicta. So I kind of grew up like watching it, and as I got older, I guess I saw like the paths and like the opportunities there were for that. I didn't when I was like a kid, I didn't even know like when I first walked in the gym, I didn't even know girls like did that. I was like, oh, girls can do like karate. I remember going to my dad, and he's like, of course they can. Like, you can do whatever you want.
Oh.
So I,
Well,
I remember like literally like talking to him about that and being like, wow, I didn't even realize. So as I got older, like seeing that and seeing that opportunity, I think that really intrigued me. But I continued doing like jiu-jitsu competitions, and then I had the opportunity to do EBI, and then I really wanted to do that because that was a really big thing at the time. And I was able to win that. And I knew right after that I kind of wanted to use that to like get myself into MMA, kind of have like at least a little bit of a platform. Yeah, so I feel like it was kind of like a journey that kind of built up along the way.
I mean,
man.
you've had a pretty incredible journey. You've on all big shows as well. It doesn't look like there's any amateur experience besides the grappling tournaments potentially, but
Yeah.
it's pretty impressive. You've been in CFFC, Invicta, and now the UFC. How does that make you feel? I mean, it's a pretty incredible, quick journey to the top.
Yeah, I feel like in some ways I'm almost like a young veteran in that sense. Like I fought a lot like within like all those organizations. And Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, I guess it's been a little bit of a whirlwind, especially like once I was in the UFC, I felt like the getting up to the top kind of happened quick because I only had like a couple fights, and then right after I fought Molly, that's when I got like the fight with Andrade, and that moved me up quick. Um, but I mean, I guess I got into it to like I wanted to always be the best, and the only way to do that is to fight the best. So I've been taking it fight by fight, and I've been enjoying it.
Nice.
I love that mentality.
And
Yeah.
props to your dad too. Like, what a great girl dad to just be like, yeah, you can fight people. Like, I have no issues with that.
Oh yeah, no, he's always loved it. Like my mom too. I mean, she came out to Canada for this last one. But they
Oh,
right away, yeah, they, like because they wanted me to like just learn how to like defend myself initially. Like I was doing dance like before that. Like my mom put me as like into as a kid, but I was kind of getting bored with that, so I remember quitting that. And then my brother was already training, so I remember going to watch. And oh, there was like a girl black belt like on the mat. I remember, and I was like, I didn't even like I had no idea that was like a thing. And then my parents were like, I think they almost like felt bad that I didn't know. And they were like, oh, of course you could do that.
our
And,
poor
and then I started
baby.
training from there. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
great. How did your mom like being at the fights? Was it her first time, or does she come to fights a lot?
No, it wasn't her first time. She's come to a couple of my fights. Not all of them in the UFC because I fought like kind of all over. But no, she loves coming. I mean, she always gets nervous, but she loves being there. I can hear her sometimes. Yeah.
Nice. Oh, I'm
Right.
professional. Oh my
Okay.
goodness.
Oh, sorry.
But it's like it sounds like you're alarmed to get ready for the show, right?
It probably was. I set alarms for everything.
Nice. Dude, so my mom, she has kind of a love-hate relationship with watching me fight too. And her solution is to tell everyone she's sitting around, my daughter's about to fight, just so she doesn't have to deal with, the crowd like uh
Yeah.
heckling and screaming kick her in the dick and that sort of thing. Have your parents ever had like any weird stories like that going to your fights?
I know my mom has like almost like I guess not fight people in the crowd, but has having like yelling matches with them. She can be
Yes.
The
she's funny.
jersey came out.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Yeah, she's Puerto Rican, so she has like that that attitude.
I love it.
And she'll snap back at them. She'll be like, "That's my daughter you're talking." Because I remember even at Invicta, I think they were saying something like I don't know something provocative, and she was like yelling at them. And I know she's yelled at them at the UFC, so she doesn't have problems yelling at people when they when they get out of line.
I love that. Is that where you got your feistiness from? Like you're like,
Honestly, I think so. I think like my mom, because it's funny. My mom, whenever she gets mad at people, she's like, "Oh, I wish I could just punch them in the face or something." And I'm like, I feel like that's like kind of became my job now. Um, she definitely has that in her.
nice, nice.
Yeah.
Well,
So
after you made such a big leap that I noticed from your fight with Fiorot and then going into this fight with Rose, you looked like a completely different fighter. What do you attribute that to, and what were you focused on most?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I feel like after the fight with Manon, that was tough. Was my first loss in the UFC and the first time I lost in a while. So I really wanted to sharpen some things up. I focused a lot on like my boxing. I got a new boxing coach and really just tried working on staying tight. And kind of just sharpening up my like everything overall, but definitely obviously keeping like my hands tighter and my elbows tighter to get more like power off my strikes and not get hit as much. So I was really focusing a lot on that, like all in like before I even had a fight. So I really was able to focus on that and without having like the pressures of a camp. And then I feel like that really helped leading into camp. It was a little bit more natural and something I'd implement into my fight.
yeah,
Nice.
no, it looked good, and I think because you get these spectacular submission finishes, people don't see how much your striking has improved. Like even going back to Andrade fight, you were landing on her like nasty,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of times people forget about that. Does that ever frustrate you? Just like hearing the criticisms, or we were talking about last week how one guy was getting upset about Michael Bisping not respecting his grappling, calling him a striker when he has like all these crazy submission wins. So does that part ever frustrate you at all when people don't see those leaps and bounds you've made in the gym?
Yeah, I guess it almost shows how much it's hard to, I guess, rewire how people look at you. Like people
Mm.
pin me as like a grappler and a wrestler. So then even it's funny. I remember rewatching my fight with Rose, and even in the fourth round, I felt like I won that round like striking. I didn't even get a takedown that round, and I felt like I was finding my strikes a lot better, and I won it on the scorecards. And I remember the commentators were like, "Oh, it's a lot better round for Rose. She didn't get taken down," and I was like, I knew I won that round. So it's almost like I feel like when you're pinned at something, they kind of disregard anything else that maybe you do well because it's just not what they're pinning you as. So sometimes it's almost kind of like humorous watching that. Um, but I guess I don't get frustrated with it. It's just kind of it just shows, I guess, maybe some bias that people have when they're commentating.
Yeah.
So besides commentating, what's kind of like the weirdest, wildest thing you've gotten from fans? Because it is hard to tune that out completely, and fans of MMA can be very, very outspoken and trollish. So how do you handle that, and what's the wildest thing you've had to deal with so far?
I remember literally when I was walking out for this fight, um somebody was yelling something at me. They were like, "Oh, Erin, if you lose this one, I'm gonna blah blah blah." And I don't remember exactly what they said, but I remember in the moment it kind of like got me a little fired up because I was already ready to walk out. Um, I feel like I mean, obviously, like after losing a fight, you get a lot of like comments like, "Oh, you should retire," and this and that. I was like, I'm 25 years old, fighting top five in the world. I was like, I'm already a lot further than most people. So I always kind of just remember that they're the people that are commenting those kind of things could never like do what you're doing, in anything, like in any sport or not even just me, just with anybody in general, because anyone that would comment that kind of stuff, they're just doing it to get the reaction. So I feel like I always just try to remember that and try to look at the good comments that you get.
Man, I went to the Apex shows last weekend, and we sat behind some of the most annoying people. And it's always, I don't know if people just don't expect that you can hear them because they're just trying to speak loud to impress their friends or make their friends laugh, but especially in the Apex, you can hear just about every conversation going on in there. So it is funny being on the other side and not in the fight, but you always wonder, like, why? Why
Yeah.
say this? Why say this out loud? Like, what made you think that was going to be the thing? But it also reminds you that this is an entertainment sport, so it's like this almost the same as being a comedian. Even though you're there to entertain everyone else, there's going to be someone in the crowd that thinks that they're funnier than the comedian. So it's kind of weird like that.
Yeah, I guess I guess it'd be hard for like any of us to understand because we're people that have like competed. So it's like you have that respect for somebody else that's in there doing it. I guess it's like anything in general. Like if you see anyone performing something, you're like, well, I've been there, like doing my own thing performing. So you kind of have like I guess another level of respect for that. I guess versus people that never have been in that position. Like I'm sure if you put them up on the stage or put them in the cage, they'd be having like a heart attack. But then they'll say all this stuff when they're sitting like on the sidelines. So yeah, I don't know. I guess it does show that it's entertainment, but I think it also just shows that people they're not used to being in that kind of like position themselves.
I love that. It must be hard to be a normal person.
Yeah.
A regular guy would never know how that feels. So you had some really big wins against some former strawweights, and I wonder what your thoughts are on adding another weight class. They've been kind of talking about adding in an atom weight division every now and then, and even though it won't like technically affect you if you did, what do you have any thoughts on that at all? Like what that would look like, or if there's even room for it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be cool. I mean, fighting like in Invicta, I knew a bunch of like the atom weights that were fighting there and got to see them fight. And I always thought there was like a lot of good, fun fights there. I think it just kind of opens up a whole nother, obviously a whole nother division for females and kind of just I guess adds more diversity with especially because moving up like 10 pounds is a lot. So if somebody's really a natural 105 or fighting at 115 is just never gonna feel the same. So I would totally be behind that. I think there are a lot of fun fights. I feel like they're it's almost like male like flyweights, like they're super fast and athletic and exciting. I think that's what like female like atom weights would be like.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been trying to campaign for this for a while, so we're gonna add your sound clip.
Yeah,
You
definitely.
basically just signed a petition, whether you know it or
Yeah, I'm good with it.
not. So speaking of other weight classes, there have been a lot of people going up and down, especially in the well, specifically in the men's divisions. Is there anyone above or below that you would like to get matched up with if you had like a dream super fight?
Oof. Oh, you know, someone. I guess this wouldn't necessarily count because I know she fought at 25, but usually fought at 35. When Misha Tate came back, I definitely wanted to fight her.
Ooh.
Yeah, I thought that
Ooh,
would
I
be
like
so.
that one.
Yeah, I thought that'd be so much fun. Because she came back a little while ago. I think right when I got into the UFC, or maybe like a year in or so. But yeah, she's someone I always looked up to, and I thought that'd be really fun.
Yeah,
Do you
she had a pretty awesome fight against who was it? Was it Ketlin?
Yeah, forgot. Was that her most recent fight?
I think that was the fight she came back on.
I think
Or
that's when she fought in Long Island. She was on my card.
oh wait, no, it was I can't think of it.
Oh, I know who you're thinking of. Lauren.
Yeah.
Was it Lauren?
Yes, she fought Lauren Murphy, she fought Ketlin, and she fought one more person that she beat. Um, but yeah, that would be an awesome fight. I mean, that would be really cool. Kind of like a bantamweight now. I think she had a lot of trouble fighting or getting down to 125. It just didn't feel right. But
Yeah.
would you go up to fight someone like that?
I don't know about right. I guess it would have to be right now because it depends how long she fights for. But I guess I wouldn't be opposed. That I think that would be a really really fun fight. So I think for that one it'd be worth it.
Yeah, for sure.
What
Yeah.
would your approach be to that fight?
Um. I feel like I haven't. I feel like I've only watched her really as a fan. I'd have to like watch her to like break her
When
down.
you were 12,
Yeah, yeah, for real. I've been watching her for like 10 years, and I'm like, I don't have any game plan. But
ah,
I feel. I mean, she's well rounded. She definitely is more of a wrestler and always looks for that, and you can see that's where she's comfortable. So I feel like I try to take her where she's not as comfortable. Maybe keep it striking until I can find my own takedowns. I feel like that's always a big key. Like not engaging people want to engage like on your time. So I think that's what I try to do with her.
nice, nice.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I want to know about, you mentioned fighting Alexa Grasso, but then in the press conference they said, "Oh, maybe in Mexico City." And even though it's probably not going to happen now that her leg is broken, you didn't seem really excited about fighting in Mexico. Why was that?
I don't know. I guess um obviously like fighting in someone's hometown is not ever like ideal. Um so just I guess for those reasons, I mean I'd love if it was like in Vegas or something like that, or maybe somewhere a little bit maybe more neutral. And just for the fans too, I know that if I was fighting Alexa in Mexico, that might be a little rough.
That'd be a little no people. Do you remember
Yeah.
when Jeremy Stevens fought there and they were throwing
It was
bottles?
bad.
It was a
Yeah.
riot. It was a
No, I
riot.
know. Like almost like aggressive, like a little dangerous. That's why I was like, maybe not there.
Yeah, I was a guest fighter in Monterey and Mexico City at one point, and we had armed guards everywhere. It's just
Yeah.
you're
No.
literally going into enemy territory.
Yeah, yeah. That's why I was like, maybe not there.
It was kind of like a fun adventure, though. You felt like you were in one of those like cartel movies or something. Like, weird Netflix special. And it's funny because Brazil kind of had that reputation for a while as being the place that you don't want to fight if you're not the Brazilian fighter. But I definitely feel like after doing both, I feel like Mexico City is a much more rowdy crowd.
Oh, really? That's funny. Yeah, I never. Yeah, okay. I've never fought in obviously never Mexico, never Brazil. I've only the furthest place I fought was Singapore, but that was actually really
Mhm.
fun. They had their crowd was like awesome. I mean, I wasn't fighting someone from there, so that might be different.
That's
Uh,
all. That
yeah,
helps too.
yeah. But I loved it there. That was really cool.
So you're fighting Alexa Grasso in Singapore now. It's
Yeah,
happening.
I'd rather do
Book
that.
it.
Somebody call Mick right now.
Yeah.
Well, we were kind of wondering why you called out Grasso as opposed to the winner of Fiorot and Shevchenko. And I think you answered it in other interviews, but just after mulling it over for a little bit of time, are you still feeling that same way? Like you would rather fight her than the winner of the title match?
I mean, if they gave like if I had to wait and I got the winner of the title match, I would love that too. I just know they haven't like booked the title match yet, and I knew Alexa at the time. I mean, wasn't injured and didn't have a fight, so I felt like the timing wise, like if we even if we ended up fighting on the same card or something like that, I think it would just be nice to stay active and gain like more experience against someone that's also been a former champ like in the weight class. So for those are like the reasons I wanted that fight, and it would still be nice if that was possible. But if I end up like not having a fight and they offer me like the winner of the title match, I would take that too.
Nice.
Yeah,
Did you see the drama?
yeah, I've seen the drama.
Mm. Loser goes home.
Yeah,
What do
yeah.
you think that's about? I haven't researched it at all, but I just saw the headlines on Instagram and stuff.
I don't know. I thought it was a little funny. I mean, not to be like too rude, but I was like the fact that she was like, "Oh, I'll beat you and you retire." I'm like, I know you're not that much younger than her. Kind of like that's why when she was like, "You retire," it's kind of like, yeah, it's kind of just like you're just bickering at each other, like who can retire first. I kind of found that a little funny.
Yeah, that's pretty great. I mean, you being a 25-year-old, it must be really funny and cute to you. Like
Yeah,
knowing you have at
from
least
my
10
perspective,
years.
I was like, that doesn't really make sense. I was like, you can trash talk, but I don't know, it should make more sense than that.
So I'm wondering what's going on with that fight. Has that been booked yet, or have you heard anything about that?
Not that I know of. I mean, I haven't really like asked like my manager or anything yet if he's heard anything, but I haven't seen anything booked about that. Yeah, I don't know. The only things I've seen is like Valentina looks like she's like on vacation right now, so maybe she's taking
Ah,
some time. I don't know. I mean, I know she's. I mean, obviously fighting 5 rounds is always rough, so maybe she's healing from maybe things she hasn't mentioned or anything like that. But yeah, I don't know. Hopefully they get that scheduled like early next year though. That'd be cool.
she's probably at a belly dancing retreat.
Yeah, I guess it keeps her in shape. She always looks like in good shape doing whatever.
Yeah.
So,
I
You
think
know,
she's
you,
pretty close to walk to fight weight, honestly.
yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah, she doesn't look like she cuts much weight. Uh,
Hmm.
which is kind of surprising considering, yeah, I don't know, considering how dominant she's been. I think that's
Hmm.
going to be a big factor, especially with her fight with like Manon. Especially, I think Manon's a pretty big girl and definitely cuts a good amount of weight. Um,
She looked very
or
stuck on the scale against you.
Yeah, yeah. No, I remember she looked pretty sucked out, and I mean she's just tall and she's like pretty filled out. So I'm
Hmm.
curious like what she what she walks around next. She's a pretty big girl, and I guess how she can kind of use that against someone like Valentina, who's definitely like on the smaller end for the weight class.
How do you feel like you size up against people in the division? You're 5'4", which is kind of average height, or maybe even a little bit shorter, more like a straw weight height. But how do you feel like your size matches up in the division? Do you think that in the future you see yourself like growing into another division?
I feel like my height is obviously like you said, I'm like a little maybe on the shorter end, especially for flyweight. Some of them get pretty tall. I mean, I feel like up until Manon, I had a bunch of girls that were probably like around my height. Even I mean, Andrade's obviously even shorter. Um, but I feel like I'm like short and like built thicker, so I know like I have like that size behind me. And I feel like I have good strength in there. I I I feel like as I get older, I definitely I don't want to like fill out a little bit more, especially fighting. I guess now having fought a bunch of girls that are like in their like early 30s, I could kind of feel maybe a little bit that strength difference. And that's something I think that's just going to take like kind of time to build. But I think it's something I can definitely like fill into and kind of use my my technique to kind of bridge the gap between that and yeah.
Yeah, speaking of technique, is like Gary Goodrich your favorite fighter because you love getting to that crucifix position and just beating people up from there? Is that something that just kind of happens in fights on just because the opportunity is there, or is that one of your like go-to positions?
Yeah, I think I actually used to use that even in jitsu a lot because I would like to just to isolate the arms, like isolate one arm so I'd be able to attack the other because I always loved going after like kimuras or arm bars from there. So then when I started fighting MMA, it just kind of transferred really well, and I was able to use it to like ground and pound from there. Um, yeah, I've always like I feel like I feel like it's almost even more dominant than mount sometimes because they can't scramble out of it as easy. So I think that's why I really like using it.
It sucks. I hate getting
That looks
stuck
awesome.
there.
Yeah, no, it's a secure position.
Especially when you don't have like one of those like really bendy, flexible backs like Jess, and you can't just like whoop,
Yeah,
like throw your legs up and roll out
try
of
to
it
put my
somehow.
head, pull it out.
Yeah. Yeah. It sucks, man. What did you need to break down how the quickest way to the crucifix? I feel like that would be a really popular video because you're able to do it so well.
Yeah. So I feel like from side control, what I usually try to think, I just have like my underhook on the near side with my head, and then usually instead of trying to, because like they'll know you're gonna be trying to grab the arm, you just start like hitting, and when they go to grab your wrist and like stop the hits,
Ah,
just slide your knee in between, like their arm, break that grip, and then you can triangle the arm, and then continue hitting. But I think that setup, like just going to hit right away, yeah, and then letting them grab to try to defend, it sets it up a lot easier.
nice. We got sparring tomorrow too. I'm like, okay. Thanks, coach.
Would you say that that's your favorite position? And what is your dream, since you're a grappler, what is your dream submission in a fight?
Ooh. Um, yeah, I would say, yeah, that position, I love that position a lot. I feel like if I could always, if I can get to there in every fight, I would. It's definitely, um, super solid and gets you a lot of finishes. One submission I have wanted to hit that I feel like I've been hitting when I roll a lot. I wish I could have done it in this fight is like a back triangle. Kind of like the same one that, Fionn Davies hit on like Mackenzie Dern. Like
Oh,
that one's like, yeah, I feel like that's like super slick. Um, and there's like basically no escaping. You're either getting choked out or like your arm's getting broken.
yeah. No, we were
Yeah,
doing that one with Johnny a bunch when you like kind of trap that arm and it almost feels like you're getting Americana on the way to
yeah,
getting choked. Yeah.
yeah. No, you can. Yeah, you basically can use like the back take to set up the triangle, and there is like basically like a shoulder lock finish from there, or you can
Yeah.
they go, like if you go to do that and they go to extend, then you can arm bar off of that, or just adjust and get the triangle. So I feel like there's so many options from there, and it looks fancy.
Man, it's like I almost want you to fight down just so you can pull that off before you fight for the title.
That'd be cool. Get
or
some
just
practice in.
or just do it in your title fight. There
Yeah,
you go.
that'd be, yeah.
Is there a preference of who you'd want to fight? I know before you were kind of like well, actually I don't remember what you were saying before, but now after seeing your performance, after like, you know, having some time to think it over, is there a preference of who you'd like to fight for the title?
Oh, who I'd like to fight for the title?
If
Um,
if you get that fight next.
yeah, yeah. Oof, that's hard. I feel like I would. I still would love to fight both of them because obviously I'd want to fight Manon to get that win back over her. But then Valentina is someone I've been watching forever, and someone that's been so dominant in the weight class that that would be an awesome fight too. Um, yeah, no, I don't have a preference. I would definitely like to fight both of them if I can.
Both of them, same
Yeah.
night.
On the same night, at the same time.
Couple months
EBI
apart.
rules. Would you ever do get back into the jiu-jitsu circuit again? Like now that they have all these big shows happening on Fight Pass and all this other stuff, Craig Jones Invitational, ADCC. Would you ever do something like that while you're waiting to get that next fight?
I don't know. I feel like I really do like kind of, focusing on my training between fights, especially with all the big fights that I have like possibly coming up, and have been having come up like in the last couple of years. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's so hard because you're especially if you're going against like other like actual grapplers, it's like you're training like a whole nother sport, like they're focusing primarily on that all the time, so it's pretty hard to just like go in and compete, and I know I know if I did do it I'd be so tight if I lost, so I would have to really like
Yeah.
focus on it. I feel like that gets me too. I'm like, oh, I'd be like, oh, I knew if I just focused on that I'd be able to win. So I don't know. I wouldn't totally write it off, but I would need to like, I know myself and I'd want to like train for it the right way.
Yeah, I get that.
Rules. So not grappling, but outside of fighting, like if you weren't fighting now, what do you think you would be doing?
Oof. I don't know. I feel like I don't know if I would actually do this, but I feel like I always think I'd probably be like a chef or something. I feel like I've always liked cooking. I feel like I couldn't do like an office job. I don't know. So maybe something with cooking.
What's your favorite thing to cook?
Um, well, my favorite thing, yeah, I like making chicken parm. That's like my favorite thing to eat.
Ooh, okay.
I like that. And then how long do you see yourself fighting for? I know that you're young and you're not talking about retirement, but you started so young and you've already have achieved so much. Do you ever think about what that end goal is or what that end date would be like?
I'm not completely sure. Um, yeah, I haven't thought of it too much. I mean, probably like early mid 30s or so. I guess I'd have to see how like my body feels or where I am at life, you know what I mean? So I don't really have like a strict cutoff for that.
How's your body feeling?
Yeah, I feel good right now. I feel like
Okay.
yeah,
Lucky
I got time.
Dude, I know some people who are mad young and just are riddled with injuries and just
Yeah,
had so many surgeries, more surgeries than they should have been able to have, like more surgeries in their age. So,
yeah, yeah,
so that's awesome that you still like you feel good after starting so young. You still feel good and fresh, and that's a good sign for the future for sure.
yeah. No, I've been lucky. I haven't had any surgeries or anything like that. I've only like bumps, bruises. I mean, I did like crack my nose, but that was really it. So nothing like too bad that's actually like kept me off the mats for like that long. So yeah, pretty lucky with that. I'm like knock on wood.
We're
Say it
all
that way.
knocking on wood.
Yeah.
Just
So big fights over at Madison Square Garden this weekend. Do you have any predictions for the main card?
Ooh. Can you remind me who's on the main card?
ah,
I
sure.
mean,
Are,
I
are you going? Are you going? I know it's pretty close to you.
I did. I asked my manager if he can get me tickets, so I'm still waiting to see.
Ah, the
They
Yeah.
will tell
Titanium.
you like a few days before, and they'll
Yeah.
Yeah.
book your ticket.
Yeah. It's not too far from me, so hopefully I do.
So in the main event, we have John Jones fighting Stipe Miocic. Then we have Charles Oliveira fighting Michael Chandler, and then Bo Nickel taking on Paul Craig for the main card.
Okay. I mean, I'm gonna go Bo Nickel. I feel like he's always pretty solid. Um, oh, then Charles Oliveira. I've always been a huge fan of him, and I know he's already fought Chandler too, so I feel like he can definitely get that win again too. Um, and then the main car, I'm gonna go with John Jones.
Gotcha.
Solid pick. I feel like everyone's kind of picking the same. Like most people are kind of going with the same lines. You fought at Madison Square Garden against Molly, right?
Yes.
How was that? That is on my bucket list, and I'm so mad you got to do it when you were like what, like 18, 20.
I was, I was 23, 23. Yeah.
Oh,
Same.
so
Yeah.
ancient. You were ancient. How was that? How was the energy like just watching it? It sounded loud in there. Like, was that like a different experience from the other fights, or did it kind of feel the same? You get that tunnel vision and go for it.
Yeah, it was definitely different. I always wanted to fight at MSG, and I lived close to there. And then fighting Molly, it's funny that I wanted to fight there so bad because then it got totally flipped on me, and I was getting booed like crazy. Like I knew it was gonna be bad.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
crazy.
it was pretty intense. Like I guess I didn't realize what it was gonna be like until the ceremonial weigh-ins when I was walking out, and like the second they like announced my name, they just started like booing like crazy.
Dang.
Um, but then I remember because like my family was like right there in like the front part with like the VIP family tickets. So I was able to see them, and they were all like cheering, they were going crazy, trying to like drown out all the booze.
Going
Um,
up the whole stadium.
yeah. And then I remember like Molly said something like during the face off, she was like trying to get in my face. Um,
What
so
did
then
she say?
Why did
I
she
think,
say?
oh, she said, I think she was like, oh, isn't this supposed to be your hometown or something like that? And she like got in my face, and I was like, yeah, it is. She's like, oh, it doesn't sound like it. I'm like, oh, this, we just like had like a little back and forth real quick. Like
Oh
literally,
my
couldn't even, we were like so close, I couldn't even like see her. It just gets like blurry.
Damn.
Talking back and forth.
oh my God, Molly.
Yeah,
How could you?
Nice. I can't believe her.
I know. And then again, like on like fight day when I was walking out, it was just like booze like crazy. And then I remember during the fight, like when I got into the crucifix first, it went silent, like dead silent. I
Ooh.
like never heard like a crowd get that quiet before. And then I remember she like got her arm out for like a second, and they started cheering, and then I got her back, and then like once I finished her, then I think I heard some cheers with some boos, and I just remember being so like it's the first time I probably was actually like kind of pissed after winning. I was like, oh, like whatever, fuck you guys. Um, but then she then she was like nice afterwards. She like picked me up and she's like, oh, good fight. I was like, thanks. Um, I guess I didn't know how to feel after that because I never really had someone like talk to me like that before. So that I was still kind of annoyed. I was like, you weren't saying that yesterday.
Mhm.
um, yeah, but I mean, I would definitely love to fight at like MSG again, and maybe get like a whole other experience this time because I feel like it would definitely be different.
Listen,
Um,
Erin, you get one. You get one.
yeah,
You write it back to moment. Leave it for someone.
yeah,
Hey man, your girl Carolina fought there like 5 times,
yeah,
and she's
That's right.
not from there at all.
I
yeah.
know, it's so weird. I love her.
So weird, yeah. But yeah, that's so funny. I was wondering, did you hear your mom when the crowd went silent? I feel like your mom would just be like, "Yes,
I wish I did. I
break
didn't hear
Oh,
on that
baby.
one. Yeah.
it!" Oh, that's amazing.
I
That's
think I remember her
amazing.
telling me she's like she's like I was the only one screaming when when the crowd went silent. But yeah, hopefully next time I can hear her.
That's great. Well, yeah, I hope you get that fight again because that does suck when you're fighting in your hometown. Somebody tried to do that to me when
Yeah.
I fought Lupi. She was like, "Oh, I'm from Canada, but San Diego is a lot. It's a huge Mexican crowd, and I'm Mexican, so they're gonna be louder for me than they are for Angela." And I was like, "That and she's super nice too, but like
Yeah.
at the time that got under my skin. But I was happy because San Diego went crazy because they said, and representing San Diego. And then it didn't matter what name they said afterwards. Everyone just,
Yeah.
so yeah, I lucked out on that one. You should have made them say representing New York and
Sure.
New Jersey.
I should have just changed it to New York City for that one.
Exactly. No,
Yeah.
Jersey would disown you. You can
Yeah.
never do
Yeah,
that.
yeah, don't do that. Just say the East Coast.
Yeah.
Yeah, representing the East Coast. Have you ever fought in Jersey at all?
Yeah, when I fought Manon, that was
Oh
in
yeah.
City, yeah. That was fun. That was obviously the crowd was on my side of that one, and even it was kind of nice because even losing that fight, like the whole crowd when I was leaving, they're like, "We still love you," and I was like,
Oh,
"Oh," I remember like almost like wanting to cry because I was already like upset with losing, but that was really nice. I liked fighting in Jersey.
nice. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for all your time. It's been an absolute pleasure, and it's been awesome watching you grow in the sport and everything that you're doing in the UFC. So you have two fans that are going to be cheering for you your next time out, no matter who it is. But yeah, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
Yay.